And hi, everybody, and welcome to another video. My name is Beatriz. I am a clarity and strategy coach, founder of Be a Boss Coaching. I'm also a podcast host of the Be a Boss Coaching podcast. And you can probably tell I'm struggling not to cough. It's been weeks since I've been sick, but this cough is the most persistent cough I've had in a long time. But we're going to try to get through this video, get through what I want to talk to you about today, which is risk taking, why we might avoid risk taking, what actually risk taking is, and then some strategies for you to take better risks in your entrepreneurship journey. All right. So let's get started. All right. So why might we avoid taking risks? And if you know me or see me online, you know that I am a child of immigrants. And as a child of immigrants, growing up as a child of immigrants, because my parents were immigrants and they took big risks in their life coming to the United States and building a new life here, for their children, what they wanted was stability, right? What they wanted for their children was predictability and certainty, which is why so many of us are told to go to school, to make sure that we get that degree, to make sure that we get that stable job. And when we grow up in this environment, right, where like maybe our parents sacrificed a lot, took a big risk, they did it so that we didn't have to do that. And so for us growing up, taking risk is seen as something bad, like something that we should avoid, something where our lives would be worth it and all the sacrifices of our parents would be worth it if we are able to create stability around our own futures and our own lives. And so if we have these experiences from our parents, or not just from our parents, but just like being of a marginalized community, being a woman of color, of queer identity, BIPOC, we have endured so much instability in our communities that taking risks just feels like the last thing we should be doing as people, as parts of being part of communities of color, or being a woman, or being of queer identity, or any sort of marginalized identity. And so we are rewarded when we are able to get that job, to get that stability, right? Like there's more predictability and stability in that. And so our brains are wired for that, for that certainty, for that predictability. And when we come across unknown situations, we see it as like potentially dangerous. We're seeing it as risking our what our parents sacrificed their lives for, and their risk, what they risked. And so it feels like we shouldn't be taking risks of our own. So that's one of the reasons why we might feel risk averse. Y'all, this cough is like killing me. You'll probably see this, and this is going to be edited to the max because I've been coughing my brains out, or my lungs out, I should say. Okay, another reason why we might not take risks is loss aversion. So I made another video on before this one. It was actually last week's video where I talked about negativity bias. And negativity bias is the idea that we respond more strongly to negative events than positive events. Our brains are wired to respond and engage more with negativity than positivity. Even if one event that is negative and one event that is positive, even if they're both equal in magnitude to their negativity or positivity, we will respond more to negativity. We'll respond more to loss rather than the pleasure of gaining something. And so this loss aversion, as humans, we generally feel the pain of loss more intensely. So if we're taking risk, and in this risk there's a potential for loss, for failure, for disappointment, we're most likely to avoid that than the positive events in our lives, right? Like imagine making a decision to start your own business. Like that is a risk, right? You're taking a risk. But most of us do not take that risk because we don't want to experience possible loss in our future, even though it could lead to much higher, greater outcomes. You could discover yourself, you could become a better leader, you could make more money. All of those things are much more, they're highly impactful, highly positive, right? Like the possibility of starting your own business is so much more than like the possibility of maybe losing some sort of income. But the potential for failure is a much stronger motivator to take risk than it is for us to potentially receive those positive outcomes, better pay, leadership skills, better time management, all of those things. So the loss of aversion plays a major role. And then the last reason that I want to give you for why we might not take risks is social. Like how I mentioned earlier around our families taking risks and them telling us that we should be aiming for stability, aiming for that stable job, right? And that fear of judgment, that fear of criticism is tied back to this potential for people seeing us as irresponsible, as reckless, as not thinking straight. And all of those things can alter our self-esteem and like how we move and how we like make decisions about our lives and our careers. And so all of those things could play a role in our risk-taking and decision-making. So if you are someone that is very risk averse, these could be some of the reasons why. It could be because you grew up in an environment where you were told your entire life, like, you cannot play around with your life. You have to, there's a clear path here that we're telling you to take. And that's the path that you need to take in order for you to be stable. And in order for us, our sacrifices and the risk that we took to mean something. And so it's a huge, like, it's something to unpack, right? It's like, it can be like a huge thing to kind of think about and discern and to like bring forward. But yeah, it's just like, it's crazy the ways that our environment shapes how we come to behave or come to operate as humans. So if you want to start a business, remember that you can absolutely learn how to take risk, take calculated, healthy risks, and it's not reckless or irresponsible. All right. So let's talk about what is risk taking and what is not. So I mentioned that there's this fear of being irresponsible or of being reckless with the decisions that you make. And that is not risk taking. Risk taking is not impulsive behaviors. It is not rash decisions. It is not reckless actions. Risk taking is, for me, about trusting myself. It's about trusting my competency, my confidence, what I know, and trusting my ability to problem solve. My ability to not just problem solve, but my ability to be accountable to the outcome or whatever comes my way. So it's about accountability. It's about being adaptable. It's about trusting myself and all of those areas in my life that I would like to grow in, that I hope that you can grow in also in your entrepreneurship journey and learn how to do. So here are some strategies for taking risks in your entrepreneurship journey. So the first one is remembering past powerful moments. So the first one is remembering past powerful moments that really made you feel confident and strong and someone that like can really take on the world. One of my favorite stories that I often like to go back to and that I've told on my podcast before, but I'm going to tell you again, is the story of when I moved to New York City. And I remember when I moved to New York for the first time, or made the decision to move to New York, I made the decision to move there to get my master's degree in social work. And I remember making that decision completely on my own. I didn't really ask anyone for their advice or should I do it, should I not? I just decided that I wanted to do this for myself, for my career, for my future. Even when I knew that it would be the most expensive decision I was ever going to make. And one of the scariest decisions because I had never been to New York. And so when I think about that moment, going to New York, making that decision, making that move, spending my life savings, my savings into this move and deciding to go to Columbia School of Social Work and live in New York City, I it just makes me feel so powerful. It makes me feel powerful that I can make such big decisions, that I can adapt to these decisions. And I look back on that time and I look back at the way in which I stayed in New York City after that for a whole 8 years. I was able to, after my grad school, get a job, find an apartment, and create a life there and create a community there. And granted, yes, there were moments where I was couch surfing. Let me tell you, I was couch surfing, and it was almost time to make the decision to come back to LA. But uh, something told me to stick it out, which I did, and it paid off. And it paid off in a great way. I would not trade my decision to move to New York for the world, for $1 million, for nothing, because it really taught me so much about myself. And that was a big decision and a risk that I took. And when I'm making decisions and risks, taking risks in my entrepreneurship journey now as a business owner and as a coach and building my coaching business, I think about that time. I think about that decision that I made and how powerful I felt and how empowered I felt in that moment to make that big decision and where it has led me. And to be honest, even if it would have been a complete failure and I would have gone to New York and I would have hated it and it would have been terrible, I know that I had a support system and I would be able to problem solve, to learn from that outcome or that situation. And so remembering those powerful moments where you've taken risks in your life, how did you problem solve that? And holding on to those stories as proof, and not just as proof, but as your empowerment tool to help you make big decisions and take risks at those moments where you're feeling like you might need to take a risk. Okay. So strategy number 2 is using powerful affirmation. So I have been in my healing era, and in this healing era, I have learned to parent myself, or to figure out what it looks like to parent myself. And what that looks like is giving myself love, right? I'm a parentified child. So what that means is that I grew up around parents in a family where I had to like be a little mini adult at a very young age, right? And that often comes from the experience of being a child of immigrants because, we become our parents' advocates as we grow up, as we are the ones learning English and navigating systems. We are the ones translating for our parents or, filling out government documents for them. And those are moments where and you look back at your childhood, you're like, damn, like I was parentified. And because I was parentified, it creates for me, my experience has been that like now as an adult, I am coming to terms with that and grappling with that idea and figuring out how to um, become my own adult, parent myself, and get in touch back with my inner niña, my small child, and like nurture her and parent her, but still balancing the fact that I am still an adult. And so those two things, balancing those two things for me within my entrepreneurship journey has been where like maybe I'm not savvy enough or knowledgeable enough to make this decision or to be this business owner or to create a business because I don't know, I don't have the experience or all of these things. And all these doubts come into play. And now that I'm in my healing era, like I'm learning these tools to like parent myself and to talk to myself in a way where it's loving. And something that I've been recently trying that I do in my head a lot when I'm working out or even making these videos is I tell myself that I am deserving. So that is one of my go-to affirmations is I am deserving. I am deserving of success. I am worth it. I am enough. I know enough. And telling those things to myself, either in my head or out loud, really creates a surge of energy within me that empowers me. Like, it actually helps me feel empowered to do what I want to do, to create this YouTube channel, to do my podcast, to build my business, to get new clients, and to continue to trust myself in this journey. Because as we take risks, when we're taking risk around creating content, for example, coming on video, or investing in our website, right? Like, websites are not cheap. Websites can cost up to like the thousands of dollars. And to invest in a website for our business and not know if it's going to pay out, it's going to pay off in the future, those are big risks. But we won't know. Like, we honestly don't know if our businesses are going to succeed or pay off in the future, right? But without that risk taking, without the ability to take a risk, we'll never know, and we'll never be able to dream big. We'll never be able to do something that is really for us, and to learn about ourselves and to grow our leadership skills. And so in this healing era that I'm in this stage where I feel like I'm really parenting myself and figuring out what that means for me. And what that means for me is like really talking to myself in a loving way, talking to that inner child, like, who, if she hadn't experienced trauma, what would she need to hear in these moments, right? That she's powerful, that she's enough, that she's worth it, that she is smart and intelligent, and all of these things grow to be the powerful adult that I am now. And so I tell myself these powerful affirmations that help me trust myself and help me empower myself to go out and do these scary, brave, risky things, but that prove to me and that tell me that I am trusting myself in the process. So that's number 2. And then the last strategy that helps me take risks is recognizing the resiliency that I come from. So I talk a lot about my parents, right? Like, my parents are immigrants from El Salvador. And yes, like, I grew up in an environment where they were constantly drilling into my head that I should be going to college, and that I need a stable job. But in reality, my risk taking does come from my father, like, because he not only took a risk coming to this country, but he's taking risks every day with business. He started his own business when he had just come to this country, and he started several businesses after that, has sold them, and now he's had this current business. Now he actually has 2. And in my work with him and being with him this whole time, I've seen how he takes risks. Like, he's very, like, he takes risks. And I think that is what has helped him and served him in his life. And then when I see that, it reminds me that risk taking does serve you. It can serve you, your life and your journey, wherever you are, because it creates the skill to problem solve. It creates the ability to adapt and to learn and to use those points of decisions that you've taken as learning opportunities, and to learn about who you are and how the world works, and how you can, with that information, you can make better decisions moving forward. And so I like to remember that about my father, and how, because of his risk taking, he's learned so much about himself and life. And we learn a lot about ourselves and life, and we get better as we move along in our journeys through risk taking, right? Like, imagine if everything was certain and we knew for sure the outcome of everything that we did. How boring would life be? But if you are averse to risk taking, remember that risk taking is what makes life worth living and what helps us grow and learn. So that is my strategy for risk taking, is remembering that lineage, remembering what my parents have done, those ancestors, and where have you seen examples of risk taking in your life and in your experience? Maybe it's your parents or a brother or a sister, or a cousin or a friend, and you've seen what their risk taking has brought them. And know that no matter what the outcome is, that you can also adapt to the outcome no matter what. And that adaptability will always lead to growth. All right. So that is all for me today. I am struggling not to cough, so I'm going to keep this video short. But I hope that this video helps you in your entrepreneurship journey and in those moments of taking risks, and know that you can absolutely continue to build your business and be an entrepreneur and be confident and empower yourself and all these wonderful things that you learn about yourself. And I would love to be that partner for you. So I want to invite you to come on over to beabosscoaching.com. I'll put it right here somewhere after I edit this video. So come on over to beabosscoaching.com, where you can learn more about me, listen to podcast episodes, watch more YouTube videos, read my blog, download resources, and you can book a call with me if you are in your entrepreneurship journey and you are stuck, need some clarity, need some strategy, need some support. I'm happy to be that for you. And so send me a form at the contact me button and I'll get in touch with you. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. You got this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.